In today's interconnected world, events in one country can ripple across continents, affecting economies, politics, and even the daily lives of people thousands of miles away. The news we see from distant places is not just background noise, it's a window into the forces shaping our own communities and futures. Understanding international news helps us see how leaders solve problems and shape our shared future. When presidents, prime ministers, and diplomats meet, their decisions can influence everything from global security to the price of goods at home. By following these stories, we become more informed citizens, able to recognize the connections between global events and our own lives. This script explores two recent events that reveal the complexity of global relations. These stories are more than headlines. They are examples of how nations navigate conflict, cooperation, and the search for common ground. First, we'll examine rising tensions between the US and Israel over a fragile ceasefire. This situation highlights how alliances can be tested and how difficult it can be to maintain peace in regions marked by long-standing disputes. Then, we'll look at a positive meeting between South Africa and Indonesia, focused on partnership and opportunity. Their collaboration shows how countries can come together to address shared challenges, from economic growth to climate change. These stories, one of conflict, one of cooperation, show the many ways nations interact. They remind us that international relations are rarely simple, and that progress often requires both negotiation and compromise. By comparing them, we gain insight into the challenges and hopes that define our world today. We also see how ordinary people, not just leaders, are affected by these events and can play a role in shaping the future. One story is about the struggle for peace, the other, about building a better future together. Both are essential to understanding the world we live in and the possibilities that lie ahead. By paying attention to these dynamics, we not only appreciate the complex work of diplomacy that shapes millions of lives, but also recognize our own place in a global community, one where awareness and understanding can inspire positive change. President Trump is growing visibly more frustrated as the days go by, his patience wearing thin with each new development in the Middle East crisis. His main source of irritation is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, especially over the ongoing ceasefire negotiations with Hamas in Gaza. Despite repeated conversations and high-level meetings, the two leaders have struggled to see eye to eye, and the tension between them is becoming increasingly apparent. The United States has invested significant diplomatic energy into brokering a ceasefire, hoping to bring an end to the relentless violence and provide some relief to the people of Gaza. American officials have been shuttling between capitals, working late into the night, and coordinating with international partners to push for a breakthrough. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is staggering. With over 55,000 Palestinians killed and countless more injured or displaced, the world is watching closely. The mounting death toll has put enormous pressure on Trump to act decisively, not just to end the violence, but to ensure that desperately needed humanitarian aid reaches those most affected. There was a glimmer of hope when a convoy of trucks carrying baby food and essential supplies finally made it into Gaza. For a brief moment, it seemed like progress was possible. However, the underlying tensions and mistrust between the parties meant that this breakthrough was fragile at best. The situation took a dramatic turn for the worse when Israel launched a targeted strike against Hamas leaders in Qatar, right in the middle of sensitive ceasefire talks. The United States viewed this move as a direct act of sabotage, undermining weeks of painstaking negotiations and threatening to unravel any progress made. Inside the Trump administration, frustration boiled over. Diplomats and advisors who had worked tirelessly to build trust and momentum now felt their efforts were being systematically undermined by sudden, unilateral military actions. Every step forward seemed to be met with 2 steps back. This ongoing pattern of mistrust and miscommunication has deeply strained the relationship between Trump and Netanyahu. Their once close partnership is now marked by suspicion and second-guessing, making genuine cooperation increasingly difficult. In a rare public rebuke, Trump has openly criticized Israel for breaking a ceasefire with Iran, telling Israeli leaders to calm down and warning that reckless actions could have serious consequences for the entire region. Now, Trump is openly questioning whether Netanyahu is truly committed to achieving peace, or if political calculations are taking priority over the lives of civilians. This uncertainty is casting a shadow over the US-Israel alliance, which has long been considered unbreakable. With trust at an all-time low and both leaders under immense pressure at home and abroad, the relationship is now at a breaking point. Trump is demanding real change, insisting that words must be matched by concrete actions if peace is ever to be achieved. The U.S.-brokered ceasefire is now on shaky ground. Trump fears Netanyahu is using negotiations to stall while continuing military operations. A heated call after the Qatar strike revealed deep distrust between the allies. Trump feels his peace efforts are being deliberately undermined, making him look weak internationally. The Israeli strike on Hamas leaders during talks was seen as a direct attempt to derail the agreement. This suspicion has created a major rift, complicating future security cooperation. If the ceasefire fails, the region could spiral back into war, damaging U.S.-Israel relations. Trump faces a tough choice: pressure an ally or risk a total breakdown. The world is watching to see what he'll do next. In response to the rapidly escalating crisis in the Middle East, President Trump made a decisive move, dispatching Vice President JD Vance on an urgent diplomatic mission to Israel. The world watched as Vance landed in Tel Aviv, greeted by Israeli officials and a flurry of media attention. His arrival marked the beginning of a high-stakes effort to prevent further violence and restore stability to the region. This high-level visit was more than just a formality. It was a clear and unmistakable signal from Washington. The United States expected Israel to honor the recently brokered ceasefire, and any deviation would not go unnoticed. The presence of the vice president underscored the seriousness of the American position. Vance's presence in these tense negotiations applied direct political pressure on Israeli leaders. He made it clear that there would be significant consequences if the ceasefire agreement was broken, and that the U.S. was prepared to reconsider its support if necessary. His mission was twofold: deliver a firm message demanding an immediate halt to military actions, and advocate for increased humanitarian aid to Gaza. Vance met not only with top Israeli officials, but also with aid workers and local leaders, emphasizing the urgent need to protect civilians and ensure relief reached those most in need. The visit was a true test of Vance's diplomatic skills, as well as a measure of the enduring strength of the U.S.-Israel alliance. Every conversation, every handshake, and every statement was scrutinized by both allies and adversaries. Vance had to strike a delicate balance. He needed to be tough and unwavering in his demands, but also careful not to create a permanent rift between the two nations. The stakes could not have been higher. The outcome of these talks would hinge on whether Israel was willing to change course and make a genuine commitment to peace. The world's attention was fixed on Jerusalem, waiting to see if diplomacy could prevail. With international journalists reporting every development, the pressure was immense. The global community demanded de-escalation, and every move was analyzed for signs of progress or setback. Ultimately, this mission could shape not only the future of U.S. policy in the region, but also the prospects for lasting peace in the Middle East. The decisions made in these critical hours would echo far beyond the walls of government buildings, influencing the fate of millions. Vice President Vance's message to Israel was both supportive and stern. Publicly, he warned Hamas of severe consequences if they broke the ceasefire. Privately, he told Netanyahu the U.S. would not tolerate actions that sabotage peace. The visit itself signaled Trump's deep concern and demand for immediate change. Vance refused to set a deadline, keeping both sides uncertain and under pressure. This strategy gave negotiators flexibility, while making clear the U.S. was watching closely. The goal: restore stability and ensure the ceasefire holds. The U.S. made it clear: support is not unconditional. Israel must be a responsible partner. Now, it's up to Netanyahu to respond and show real commitment to peace. The fragile calm depends on his next move. While the Middle East faced crisis, a different story unfolded in Southeast Asia. South African President Ramaphosa visited Jakarta, welcomed by President Prabowo. Their meeting focused on strengthening ties, boosting trade, and building a future based on mutual respect. Ramaphosa encouraged Indonesian investment in South Africa, aiming for jobs and prosperity in both nations. Both countries are key members of BRICS, working together to amplify the voice of emerging economies. Their talks covered economic cooperation and global issues, reinforcing a growing alliance. This meeting highlighted a positive trend: nations building bridges for shared benefit. It's a reminder that diplomacy can create opportunities, not just solve crises. Indonesia and South Africa's partnership is rooted in shared history and common goals. As major democracies in the global south, they seek resilient economies less dependent on the West. Their BRICS alliance gives them a platform to push for a fairer global system. The Jakarta meeting helped coordinate strategies for future BRICS summits and deepened personal ties between leaders. Trust and understanding make diplomacy more effective, paving the way for ambitious projects. The leaders focused on practical steps, boosting trade in agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. They discussed making investment easier, turning vision into reality. Their proactive approach aims to deliver real benefits for their citizens. This is foreign policy focused on results, not rhetoric. The Indonesia-South Africa connection stretches back over 350 years, beginning with Dutch colonial rule. Indonesians brought to South Africa as exiles, and artisans left a lasting cultural legacy, especially among the Cape Malays. This shared history is a foundation for today's partnership, blending resilience and cultural exchange. Indonesia supported South Africa's anti-apartheid struggle, deepening political ties. Today, leaders highlight this bond as more than economic. It's a living heritage. Indonesian influence is seen in South African language, cuisine, and faith. When Ramaphosa and Prabowo meet, they represent peoples with intertwined pasts. This context adds depth to their cooperation, making it more than strategy. Their alliance is a continuation of a long, meaningful story. It's a partnership built on shared struggle and cultural richness. The past week's events reveal a world both divided and united. In the Middle East, peace remains elusive as trust between allies falters. Vice President Vance's mission shows the urgency and difficulty of diplomacy. Meanwhile, Indonesia and South Africa offer a hopeful model of cooperation and shared history. Their partnership within BRICS signals a shift toward a more balanced global order. These stories, one of tension, one of partnership, reflect the realities of international relations today. Progress requires communication, negotiation, and understanding. The choices leaders make in Jerusalem, Washington, Jakarta, and Pretoria shape us all. The pursuit of peace and prosperity is a shared journey, full of both obstacles and opportunities.